I'm Jared, and this is the BFIBs Almanac. Well, since the last episode, we've only had 2 games. It was the doubleheader on Wednesday, and we split the series with the Royals. It was only a 2-game series. Most people thought we should sweep those 2 games. The Royals are not a good team. They do not have a good record, but the Cardinals could only get the split. And as usual, it was a bipolar, completely different opposite results. We lost 8-2 in the first game with Michael Wacha on the mound, and we won 10-3 in the second game with Wayno on the mound. And the offense was nowhere to be found in the first game, and they were on fire in the second game. And we're talking hours apart. So, as usual, the ups and downs continue. So let's take a look at some of the stats, and we're going to break into a couple player analysis just real quick. I don't think this will be a real long episode. With just a couple games to look at. All right, the first game on Wednesday was 8-2 loss. Michael Wacha pitched 4 2/3 innings, gave up 7 hits, 7 runs, 6 earned, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. He was not sharp. He didn't look good the whole time he was out there. And he now has a 5.59 ERA. Now we're going to get into Wacha's stats a little bit more coming up. But the other thing to take away from that game was the Cardinals left 7 runners on base, and with runners in scoring position, they were only 1 for 5. So when they were getting guys on base, they were not knocking them in. They only mustered 4 hits on the game, and 2 of those were by Wieters, the catcher filling in for Yachty. So the point of that being, he's not an everyday player anyway, so the guys who do play all the time only got us 2 hits. So Ozuna did have a late couple of RBIs in the game with a double to the wall. So he's really been the best source of offense lately. But just overall, a very disappointing outing. I was at that game, took off work early to go to the 12:15 game. It was actually really nice out. The weather was great. The sun was shining. But it was a disappointing result. And we didn't want to kill 3 hours between games, so we ended up heading out, coming home, and I watched the second game on TV, which was the one to go to. We should have gone to that one. Wainwright started. We won 10-3. He pitched 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. So it wasn't actually that great of an outing by Wainwright. He did get the win, but it's only really because he got so much run support. He gave up all 3 of those runs. They were earned. He had several hits, too many walks, not enough strikeouts, just didn't look sharp. He was constantly pitching out of trouble and just kind of, it wasn't a horrible outing, only 3 runs, but just not a great outing either. And something to be a little concerned about. He just wasn't quite sharp with all his pitches, and we hope that doesn't continue going forward. The Cardinals did leave 6 on base, which is not really good, but they did have a lot of guys getting on base. With runners in scoring position, they were 3 for 7. We had 4 home runs on the night. Ozuna and Carp off the starting pitcher, Homer Bailey, and Fowler and Wong each had one later on. So the offense really came alive. Definitely good to see Ozuna continue to hit. We needed to see Carp get one, and Wong too for that matter. They've both really been struggling. So good to see those guys contributing. Hopefully they can start that into some consistency here. I don't know. We'll see. The bullpen was lights out. Gant, Miller, Carlos, and Brebbia pitched out of the pen. Miller had 2 strikeouts and a clean inning. Gant had a hit, but no damage. And I believe Brebbia also had a hit, but with no damage. So the bullpen was very good. But again, it's this up and down, inconsistent bullpen. Miller looked really good with 2 strikeouts, but then, the outing before that, he was not very good. And his next outing, he probably won't be very good. It's just kind of what we keep seeing, this, up and down inconsistency that is frustrating. There's that word again. But for that game, they were very good, and they kept us above 500. The Cardinals are now, I want to say 25-24, a game over 500. And, who would have thought when they were 20-10 that they would now be 25-24? I mean, it's crazy, the swing that we've seen here. One of the guys that I wanted to take a look at is Michael Wacha. Like we said earlier, we're going to take a closer look. Is he really that bad? There's talk now in the media and among the fans about possibly replacing him in the rotation, either putting him in the bullpen or sending him down for some, to get some adjustments in Memphis. And I kind of wondered, it feels like he's been that bad, but I wanted to take a look at the stats. He's now pitched in 9 games, and he has given up earned runs in each game. Not necessarily a surprise, but you'd think maybe some of these shorter outings he might have gone, not giving up any runs, but he has a 1.693 whip, walks plus hits per inning pitched. So that's pretty high. That's on the high side. We've talked about before, we'd like to see that around 1.2. Really, anything close to 1.0 is what you want to see. So 1.7 is pretty high for a whip. He has, now let's just look at what those earned runs were. So in his first 2 outings, March 31st and April 6th, he only gave up 1 earned run in each of those. But then he gave up 7 earned runs, then 2, then 3, then 4, 1, and 6. So his earned runs are trending upwards. Other than that 7 earned run in his 3rd outing, he was in the fairly low 1, 2, and 3 earned runs in his first 5 starts, and then 4, 1, and 6. So he did have the good outing, last time in Atlanta. He actually got the loss there, but he only gave up 1 earned run, so it's hard to fault a guy for that. But he is trending upwards in the earned runs, and his strikeouts are trending downwards. So again, in his first 2 outings, back in March and April, he had 7 strikeouts in each of those, then 3, then 7, 5, 4, 2, 4, and 4. So starting out with 3 games of 7 strikeouts in his first 4, and then 5 another game of 5 strikeouts, and then it's been going down 4, 2, 4, 4. So as his strikeouts are going down, his earned runs are going up. They've talked about his velocity. Dan McLaughlin was on with Bernie Miklasz this morning discussing his velocity, and I believe they said he's lost like 3 miles an hour off his fastball just this season, I think. Maybe they were talking about comparing it to last season, but regardless, it's an alarming trend with his fastball velocity, which is affecting his changeup. So when your fastball's not as fast as it used to be, and your changeup is not as different in speed, you're going to be hittable, and I think that's what's going on. He has given up a home run in 7 of his 9 outings, including the last 4. So that's definitely a problem. Every time he goes out there, basically, he's given up a home run, at least one. And you're going to get into trouble doing that. Now, if you can limit that to a solo shot, something like that early in the game, maybe that's no big deal. But if you have a tendency to give up the long ball, you're going to get burned eventually, and he has been. So overall, it's hard to say, oh man, he needs to go, he's got to be sent down, or we've got to find somebody else. It's not that he's been horrible, it's just that he's not been good. His ERA now is 5.59, which is not good, and it's trending, worse and worse. So, I guess we should be alarmed as his strikeouts go down and his earned runs go up and his home runs allowed go up. Maybe we do need to consider maybe he is injured or he's just losing his effectiveness. Hitters have the book on him now, maybe. I'm not really sure, but I don't think it's quite as alarming as some in the media and social media would have you think. But it is definitely something to keep an eye on. And there's been talk, even among Schilt and Wacha for that matter, that something's got to change. So we'll see if anything does in fact change. So the other guy that I wanted to kind of take a look at is Colton Wong. So we've talked about a lot of the prominent players like Paul Goldschmidt, Paul DeYoung, and Matt Carpenter. But the narrative this season has been that Wong is going to get to play more. He's got the confidence of his manager. He's getting more opportunities. He's pretty much your everyday second baseman, and that's been this awakening for him. Now he's hitting well again. He's contributing. He's doing all this stuff now that he finally has the confidence of his manager. Well, that was true early on, and the numbers, indicate that. But if you just look at what he's done in the month of May, he has 71 plate appearances. He is batting .206 with a .282 on-base percentage and a .333 slugging percentage for an OPS of .615. Those are not good numbers by any stretch. He only has 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 6 walks to 8 strikeouts, and 2 stolen bases. So he's really just fallen off quite a bit. Now, if you look at what he did from the beginning of the season through April 30th, he had 113 plate appearances. So some of these numbers are going to be skewed by just the differences in plate appearances. But he batted .272 with a .398 on-base percentage compared to .282 for the month of May. .467 slugging for an OPS of .866. So that's over 250 points of difference in his OPS. That's a big swing. He had 4 doubles in that time, 4 home runs, 16 walks, 17 strikeouts, and 5 stolen bases. So really, even though it's not quite half as many plate appearances in the month of May, he's got half as many doubles and half as many home runs. So that's actually trending up a little bit. It's hard to say that when you're talking about 2 doubles and 2 home runs. But when you look at his walks, he had a lot more walks, more than almost 3 times as many walks to start the season in not even 2 times as many plate appearances, and twice as many strikeouts. So he's kind of improved in some areas, like strikeouts and home runs, but his walks are way down. His on-base percentage is way down. So, he's just kind of going through a pretty drastic lull right now. Now, he did have a home run last night and was 2 for 4, I think. But he also had 2 strikeouts. So, maybe he's going to come around a little bit. But he's just, I thought it was interesting because I personally, I still have this thought in my head, and I think a lot of fans do, that, oh, hey, Wong's having a good season. But he's really not lately for a long time now. So we'll see if he can turn that around. I do think he will. I don't think he's going to get back up to that, over 300 batting average and over 400 on base percentage. And I don't think he's going to be this big home run guy. But, I do think he's going to find somewhere in the middle. He'll probably be a 260, 270 hitter, hopefully like a 350 on base percentage, and slug, somewhere around 400. So we'll see. Can he, get back to those numbers and contribute all season long? Really, his defense has been so good that it doesn't really matter to me that much how his numbers are, but you really hate to have a hole in the lineup like that. So we'll see if he can turn it around. I think he will. Let's just hope it doesn't take too long. And he's not the only one. I picked him out just because we hadn't really talked about him, and I kind of was curious to see if he was trending down the way some people have said, and it turns out he really is. But a lot of guys are not performing to their potential. Goldschmidt, Carpenter, Yachty really even hasn't been doing as much as we'd like to see. In my opinion, the only 2 guys who are really contributing, well, 3. I would say DeYoung, Ozuna, and Fowler. And even Ozuna's batting average isn't all that great, but he's hitting for power. He's hitting tons of RBIs. He's now leading the majors in RBIs. I think he's got 14 home runs. So Ozuna's doing everything we could ask except maybe get a little higher batting average, but he's doing fine. Fowler, his on-base percentage is still really good. His batting average isn't as good as you'd like to see. He's not really hitting for power, though he did have another home run the other night. So he's kind of putting it together, but overall he's doing much more than anybody expected of him this year. And same with Ozuna. And DeYoung is doing what I think people had hoped for and kind of expected. But he's definitely been consistent and maintaining that. So I'd like to see what we got with those guys. If we can just get, 1 or 2 of these other guys in the lineup going, it's really going to make a big difference. So the other thing I wanted to bring up is not necessarily related to the Cardinals, but somebody called me out today for not knowing exactly the rule on hit by pitch. They said, hey, you run a baseball podcast. You should know these things. And I should know. I feel like I did know. I just couldn't actually recall it at the time. But the question was, does a hit by pitch count as a hit? And I couldn't remember. I didn't think that it did, but I thought, well, maybe it does because, you can get an RBI from it or whatever. But so I looked up the rule when I got home. The reason it even came up is I was at my nephew's high school baseball game, and they're in the playoffs right now, and he got hit by a pitch twice today. He's the leadoff hitter, so his on-base percentage has been really good lately. He gets hit by so many pitches. Last summer on his travel team, he broke the record by far for hit by pitch. He's really talented at it somehow. I'm not sure how he gets hit by so many. He crowds the plate a little bit. And I think the main thing is he's not afraid and he doesn't get out of the way, which brings up another point. But to get back to the original point, a hit by pitch is not a hit and it doesn't count as an at-bat. So in that sense, it's like a walk. So when you, if you have 4 plate appearances and you walk 2 of the times and you get 2 hits, you're going to be 2 for 2, not 2 for 4. Those 2 walks don't count as at bats. So same thing with a hit by pitch. If you have 4 plate appearances and you get hit by a pitch in all 4 of them, you're going to be 0 for 0. You don't have any actual at bats and you didn't get on base with an at bat. So you're 0 for 0. So it is credited as on base percentage and a plate appearance. So like we said, if you have 4 plate appearances and you get hit 4 times, that's a plate appearance, and you get on base. So your on base percentage for that game would be 1,000 if you got hit each time. So it's essentially like a walk as far as how it's handled with on base percentage and whether it's a hit or not. Now, the interesting thing about it, and this is one of those things that I don't think I knew for sure, and I know a lot of fans get it wrong. Do you have to try to get out of the way of a pitch? And apparently, according to the rule number 5.05B says that the batter is supposed to make an attempt to get out of the way of the pitch if possible. I'm paraphrasing there, but you have to try to get out of the way if you can. Now, they said umpires almost never call it that way. If you get hit by a pitch, they're going to award you the base. Now, if you're leaning into it, or clearly if you're attempting to swing and you get hit, that's a different matter. But if you're just standing there and you don't try to get out of the way, the umpire generally is going to award you the base. But technically, they can say, nope, you didn't try to get out of the way. And if you weren't over the plate, they're just going to call it a ball. And that actually happened today. And it's happened many times with my nephew who gets hit a lot. And a manager will come out of the dugout and complain, hey, he didn't even try to get out of the way. And then, of course, you get some parents saying he doesn't have to try to get out of the way. And other parents yelling, yeah, he does, And you get this back and forth. And the manager and the umpires get into it or whatever. Meanwhile, my nephew's standing on first base. So apparently he is supposed to try to get out of the way. Again, it's a rule that's rarely enforced. It's sort of up to the umpire's discretion. I guess if you flinch at all as if you're trying to, turn or whatever, they're going to say you try to get out of the way. But generally he doesn't. He just stands in there and lets it hit him. He's got an elbow guard that a lot of times he gets hit in the elbow, but a lot of times he gets hit in the ribs, in the back, in the helmet, and he doesn't get out of the way. So we always, kind of give him credit and say, hey, he doesn't have to. Good for him. Apparently he's supposed to try at least a little bit. So anyway, there's your rule for the day. So, all right, well, that's all I've got. We have the day off today. Today's Thursday. The Cards have the day off. They will be coming back for a weekend series at home against the Braves. We just played the Braves. Didn't look so hot down there. So hopefully we can turn it around and take at least 2 or 3. And then go into the holiday weekend. We've got Memorial Day on Monday. The Cards are off, but the Blues will be playing Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final against the Boston Bruins at Boston. Everybody in St. Louis is pumped for that, so hopefully we can come out of the weekend series with the Cardinals winning and go right on into the Blues winning, so we shall see. I appreciate you listening, and until next time, I'm Jared, and this is the BFIBs Almanac.